The first tap of a conductor's wand. The first rivet in a mile-high tower. The master link at the genesis of the never-ending chain. The moment a single empty canvas meets a singular master stroke. There is no one thing. Because now, there are many. Because soon, there will be more. Because one is ever the beginning. Like the first link in an infinite chain, or the first rivet in the tallest skyscraper. The master stroke is found in the masterpiece. What will you begin?
All right, everyone, welcome to 37th episode World Blockchain Roundtable. Hosts for today are Greg from Rivet, Dave from din.social,
hello,
Jay Rosen from the Metaverse Architect and Mirror Vision Labs. Is that right? I think that's right. I got it right. Okay. Satoshi Sean, entrepreneur and friend to all. And I'm Joe, architect, founder, Dragonchain. We have one more guest that might show up just as a surprise. I won't say who it is just in case. And let's see here. This week, we have an update for the distribution of lot from last week's episode. Each host from last week will receive 333 lot. Every topic contributor will receive 111 lot. These NFTs come with perpetual passive income from the World Blockchain Roundtable layer. Free edits in that layer and governance votes, which is the most important thing. And that's all active. We've actually gotten a few through. So if you guys have any ideas on how to modify the model that we have here and how we reward stuff and how we do stuff and segments and want us to kill some segments.
They're NFTs, you say? What?
Yes. Yeah, they're NFTs.
What are they good for?
That is
utility.
A fantastic question.
Think of this.
Absolutely everything.
See, I teed it up. So anyway, one more update. We had a governance issue passed. We will be rewarding denizens who suggest a theme used on the show. So I don't want to confuse anyone. We have topics and questions every week, right? But once a month, we run through a governance vote where people can propose new themes for every week. And then everyone who has lot is able to actually vote on the different, the higher level subject matters that will dictate the theme of each week's show. So it's a good thing because, and we're kind of figuring out how it all will flow together. But we realized we weren't rewarding the people who actually provided the higher level themes. So we added this vote, and it passed, right? So it passed pretty quick, which is nice. So we're going to increase the amount of lot created each week. The current process where the amount of lot is based on the number of views rounded down to the most significant digit, but we're going to create additional lot equal to the weekly topic contributor reward. So it's essentially like you get rewarded for having the topic, and you get it, when the 4, sometimes 5, sometimes there are 5 weeks in a month, but whoever those people are will now get rewarded as well. So it's awesome. The rewards come via a tip mechanism in DEN itself. So if you look at your tips, you can actually go through and see which show you got how much lot for and everything else. It's pretty cool. And let's see here. Another update. We have new merch for Blockchain Roundtable merch. I don't know how we'll do this. Potentially, I think that anyone who has lot should probably get a discount on it. So do ping us there. We'll figure out how to do that. But go get. I just ordered some yesterday or day before, so it takes a few days to get here. But I will have it hopefully next week. We'll see. And the theme of this week, thanks Sean, is NFT utility. So what do we have to say about current events with NFTs? Is there anything that's happened recently big?
That is a good question. I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe the current events segment, because we usually don't hit the we don't usually hit the subject in
Yeah.
so the current events is anything, which I guess the biggest current event would be the attack that happened yesterday, right? So who has anything on that? It's pretty interesting. I didn't get all the details down. I understand the flow of it, but I didn't get to look at the actual hows.
I have to catch up on that still. I briefly saw something about it, but I've been kind of checked out this week, so maybe I can catch up here.
The thing I'm missing is I know that they, from my understanding, they went in and they created fake wrapped ETH on Solana, and the how did they do that is the big question. But it confused the contract, and it therefore thought that they had deposited that amount. So then when they withdrew it, they withdrew real wrapped ETH. And the bigger question is that there's a bunch of assets that are supposed to be backed by that wrapped ETH that are now not backed by anything at all. And maybe FTX or somebody, I don't know who it is that controls that whole world, was supposed to fill it in with some real ETH.
Interesting.
Bridges are a dangerous proposition, right? Like
scary stuff.
There is so much that can go wrong in the process of attempting to bridge assets across chains. Beta testing it on the public may not be the most responsible choice.
That's where you get your bounties. That's where you find your mistakes.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that is
bounty.
Yeah.
That is the brutality of it. Is this is actually a flaw that whoever accomplished this pointed out, and they did it by essentially taking at the expense of all of the people who were using it for real, as opposed to like if Rivet were to do something like that, for example, right, we would start by having ourselves at risk along with some other very, very well-informed intentional volunteers who would be already contributing what they considered to be a bug bounty essentially through the system. And if you can take it, it's yours. But and then promise of publicizing and thanking the person, as opposed to saying, we need to hunt this person down, and now we're going to have to come back and.
Well, that's like all of cryptocurrency, right? If you can take it, it's yours.
Right. Well, I mean,
it reminds me though of remember when Bitcoin forked and Overstock was allowing Bitcoin purchases. I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but there was a small period of time there where you could, because something happened with their platform that didn't process it right or didn't look for something, you could deposit Bitcoin Cash and then refund your purchase, and you would be refunded Bitcoin. Right. Which was like, I mean, and once that got out, a lot of people started refunding, doing that, because you could buy Bitcoin Cash for way cheaper than Bitcoin, obviously.
Yeah, it was like 10 to 1 or something back then.
Yeah. So you just go buy something at Overstock, refund it, and get your Bitcoin. So that stuff does happen.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the difficulty here is, Solana development has been, an effort to race to catch up, right? They've been trying to be a competitor to ETH that prefers speed to private or speed to security, right? They want to reduce the amount of latency for everybody on board and increase the throughput, but they don't want security to get in the way of that. And they've been clear about that, but they haven't been clear about the risk, right? Like they haven't really been trying to drive home to the people using it, here is what is at stake. You could lose everything and extra lose everything. This isn't the usual.
If they had that much, if they had that much in an account without saying anything or without having a secondary measure, even if it was decentralized governance, to say, okay, someone's attempting to withdraw a very, very large amount. Do we want to at least have something, sitting in a way of that, or time itself? Imagine if it wouldn't have allowed that much movement. That's another way you can do it, right? It would have to be over time. You can pull out, and people would have realized when 1,000th of that amount wasn't supposed to go out that something was up, and they could have.
Or if their fees are so low, right? Then why not require a whole bunch of transactions at a very low hard cap on all movement?
You know what I wonder is how much influence like VCs and stuff have over the design of that network? Because I know
That's a good
there's a
question.
lot of like what you're talking about, where you like, oh, go faster, cheaper, whatever.
Yeah, just get it out.
Here's what
They
everybody
do have a
wants.
VC who
just get it out.
commented, right?
With as much centralization as Solana has, I really, it just doesn't make sense that they don't focus more on security. I have so many problems with Solana personally.
They certainly haven't been very contrite about it, have they?
No, I wanted to make a point about what I kind of took from this week. I've been saying this for a long time that we went through in crypto. For those of us who've been in it a while, they've ignored us, they've laughed at us, and I think we're really getting to the fight stage, which we've been really spoiled. You know what I mean? And just to kind of bring it back to the bugs and glitches and problems, I think they're much more critical now because they're going to be attacked by those powers. They're going to be, look, this doesn't work. It's going to be made big news.
Yeah,
the Maxwell trial, whatever's happening in the world doesn't matter. This is it. This cryptocurrency stuff. Look at what happened.
Right.
And you don't know any of these terms, so we're going to scare the crap out of you with them.
Right. And then they're going to paint everybody with the Solana brush in one broad stroke.
Can I ask one thing too? I've not heard anything on crypto Twitter or in any of the normal channels. I've only seen this on 4chan Biz, that there is some weird, and I don't know enough about it, so I can't make any judgment, but the control between, or at least the association of Solana and FTX, and the fact that there have been very interesting and suspicious downtimes with Solana tied with dumps on FTX. And no one knows why. That people who had Solana couldn't get out of it because the network was down right when, yet people were still doing a lot of activity on the exchange. And so you have to wonder, especially given, and I didn't know that there is some financial association between that exchange and Solana itself, or at least components of Solana, something. So I didn't know any of that. And the only place I've seen that is on Biz. I'm like, why is that? And theoretically, if you have an exchange that is tied to the traditional markets, they could easily destroy much of crypto rep or the feelings of safety that a normie might have in relation to crypto, when in the midst of all the celebrities picking up NFTs and all types of normie adoption or friendly adoption, right? So this is an easy way to scare people. Is that it? I don't know.
Well, I mean, and we've tried in the history of ledgers, we have had double entry bookkeeping forever, and there has been something that existed before that was simply somebody kept a ledger and nobody audited it in the counterparty exchange. It was literally a system where one person kept track of everything and nobody checked up on them. That is a step backwards, and despite the fact that there is a blockchain behind it, when they take their system down, if they have full control over it, they can just revise it. They can make it say whatever they want.
Yeah. One of the things
that's not what this whole movement's about.
What you're talking about, though, you and Joe both, the more decentralized the network becomes, the less plausible these kinds of accusations are. So even if there's nothing there, it's more plausible, and people are going to wonder about that shit if you're centralized, because it's
exactly.
My issue is nobody's wondering about that. It's like, if that actually happened, why is it only on 4chan? That should have been a discussion, because that was.
I have heard some rumblings about that.
I think people are afraid of the broad brush, man. I think they're afraid of being the person who says the thing that that instigates the brushstroke.
The entire world is fanboy for CZ and Binance and now FTX. It's that the entire crypto world is that, and that's the big issue.
Binance is the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm not saying anything bad about any of those. It's just all that fanboy stuff needs to stop.
Right.
That's the stuff that makes it weak.
Right. If we're not our own best critics, then we are going to have a much less friendly critic that may be amenable to the interests of big finance imposed upon us.
Yeah, and the positive thing that is the real decentralized finance of the decentralized exchanges, that's the positive, I think. There are issues with them, especially fees and everything else, but those are pretty remarkable that they are already here, because I would have expected those to not be here yet, given everything else. So that's pretty cool anyway.
As far as the fight goes, though, I really noticed this last week that it is peer-to-peer revolution, that we started. It's moving to, I think, the next level. You look at, and it's not government entities anymore. It's not. That's too small. I think now when you look at like the IMF, I mean, those type of entities, the real evildoers are now scared. Yeah, and they're now coming out, hardcore against it.
We haven't,
but we've moved to this level of states that are going to make Bitcoin, legal tender. Yeah. I think South America is going to completely fall within the next year. As soon as Brazil goes, everyone's going to follow.
Yeah.
If Mexico follows with that, it's over, dude. The continents it's done.
Well, except for consider this, right? And this is the thing that really freaks me out, because yesterday I had this really weird experience where some asshat fact checker, and he wondered why I screenshotted this. Everybody go to @DesignHeretic and make this person feel like they're about to be exposed for this behavior if you have the time, because this idiot. I was talking about the implications of silencing people with respect to the relevance of the Joe Rogan thing, right? Saying that silencing is irresponsible because fact checking is actually better done by critics, right? You actually have an advantage to listening to critics and critical voices because they help us find the truth. They help us find our mistakes.
It's the continuation of the dialogue.
This fact checker comes in with this big graphic that says missing context. And he's like, nobody was silenced. Read the facts. And I'm like, I didn't say that. You said that. And he continues on. And it's fucking ridiculous. They are going to aim that at people who defend crypto. If we get into a place where the regulators are after us, it'll be just like Elon Musk saying, going private, funding secured. They will censor people, and we will have the narrative fact checking us for context for defending our thing.
Yeah, and we've already seen at least one example of it. Now, I don't know if this is true or not. It's just something that I saw one of our community members post. But over on Facebook, there was the Smart Ballots, smartballots.us, one of the Dragonchain projects spinoffs, was like censored with the label misinformation or like something like that on it.
I know that.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that. Wow.
Yeah, totally. I forget who caught it, but I saw. I interacted with the person and I forgot their name. But yeah, Facebook was like misleading or whatever on the Smart Ballots thing, which is literally like, hey, let's bring all the lies out of the elections. And they were like, misinformation. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you right now?
You hit a nerve. That's I mean, the funny thing about that is that it probably came up because of that Arizona interview, because we did that interview maybe 2 months ago, and they just put it out because that organization is all about trying to make sure that the lawmakers are educated about the various technologies. What can we do? How can we improve this? How can we address any issue totally in an agnostic way? We don't care, which side you're on. And they came out with that, and now that's funny. That's it. And by the way, I think that person, I mean, it has all the markings of having come over from Reddit, just so you know, right. Greg. So you need to make sure you use.
I tracked him down. Back to Reddit. It's a Rand Corporation thing. It is a Rand Corporation thing. These guys actually manually go through using a software that this one dude invented. The funny thing too is if you look up these guys on LinkedIn, which I'm not going to dox them, but if you decide to go track them down, you can get there by Google pretty easily. They look like characters out of something that Will Ferrell would write. Like, I mean, it's like you pull this up and you're like, holy crap, am I in like Anchorman 5, the fact check? Like, what the hell is going on here?
I don't know, man. I think there's a job for a DAO too. You could independently, go after, either counter them or make sure you expose them everywhere they
I
travel. So not,
I didn't back the fuck down, that's for sure.
Yeah,
But I think the danger is we get that pointed at us. I think that's when we'll know they're
DAO running fact checkers for fact checkers across social media platforms.
Ooh.
Yes.
I
Sounds
there
like
should
a
be a
great,
DAO. There should be a DAO.
Yep.
Yeah, who watches the
That would be like
We do.
Joe Roganing social media and fact checkers. Oh, everyone like, oh, I checked. I trust these independent fact checkers,
awesome.
fact checking the fact checkers. And like we could put our own labels.
It would be, you'd be able to do a batch process on Snopes, right? Their cat, their cat, and the prostitutes. They would have no way to defeat us, right? So
that would be an interesting layer on, just if we were just to start a layer on Den, like to reward people and to get people could weigh in on like whether or not it's a bogus fact or one that they want. Like you could raise to the top the most curious fact,
right? Like Hotep Jesus' grifties, but for fact checkers.
Yes.
Yeah, like something that's been fact checked, and it's like, hey, I don't think this fact checker was factual. Can somebody else vet this? And then have a reward system for people that do that.
That'd be great.
An interesting thing.
Okay.
Love it.
So let's go now. Are there any current events or speculation around the subject of this week, which is NFT utility? Anything going on in that world that people should be aware of?
I'm sure everybody's probably aware of it by now, but you can, in fact, dox yourself on Twitter and put your NFT profile up. I know everybody probably knows about that.
That is some level of NFT utility that's waiting for a while. So you get a hex cropping. I haven't looked if you can crop your NFTs.
They force the crop. It's actually
but can you on your own right click, save, and basically just crop?
You can. You could either crop it in like Photoshop and just make it where it's a visual trick like they do with the names, or you can right click, save it, mint it on Ethereum, and then attach that to your profile, and then Twitter will be like, oh yeah, that's obviously your ape. Just because it's like it's a minted NFT. They don't check to see if it's
they do. If you click it, you get a whole bunch of stuff about.
No, they check the crypto that it is, but they aren't checking that it isn't just a copied image. From a different NFT.
You would have to go do your own research if you want.
So, like, if you wanted to hop into Ape Chat, they give you the ability to very effectively fake your association with a particular NFT community, because you could slip in and scam people because now you got a hex. Right, so you think it's official, right? But really,
that's the worst. If you're going to do something with identity, you need to do it right.
This is why they need to
made it easier to scam people.
An integration with ENS, and they need to potentially implement an integration with Collabland. That where you literally have to have the right NFT in your address in order for you to be able to access a particular community. That would make the most sense, right? Like, because this actually has the capability to validate who that you are who you say you are, to the extent it's important in the community.
Yeah, and I was just talking about on Twitter itself. Like, if that community had their own community, then they would obviously use the real set for access, and that's a real utility of it, right? It's like gating access and security and things like that.
Yep. But the larger implication too is people are in fact essentially doxing themselves to Twitter, right? Every time you connect your wallet to it. You're not getting any promises that they're not building a database.
They are.
You're getting promises that they are.
Right,
like
exactly.
Their entire business model is to sell data they collect.
Well,
they
changed their terms like a year ago that they are mapping, that they admit that they are mapping when you have multiple accounts on your phone, and they're mapping them all to, so.
I found that out because my dog got banned from Twitter.
Twitter's okay with sock puppets.
Because I had like I just had like a account with my dog's face on it, named her Bitcoin, and every now and then I'd just like retweet something that Divi or Dragonchain said or whatever. And because I got banned for like some stupid shit that I said on Twitter, my dog's account got locked out, and I just never re-enabled it. I was like,
Web3 me is going to have a conversation with myself on Twitter.
Man, that is bad. That is bad. Okay, I guess you guys, go to the questions. Does that sound good? Oh, let's bring in Daniel Uribe. Is it Uribe? Is that close?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, excellent. Co-founder and CEO of genobank.io. So sorry,
Welcome.
came in late. Hopefully it's all right.
No,
We'll go to the questions, and you can throw in stuff. And at some point too, we can talk about what you guys do, because I think it might be maybe before we get to questions. What do you guys do with at Genobank?
Thank you very much, Joe, gentlemen. It's a pleasure and honor to be here with you in the show. So basically, as we may notice during the pandemic, especially, most of us, in some point of our lives, have handed in a biosample tube, right, to a laboratory, to a genetic testing company, or for research like that. That would be our case. The topic or the mission that we have is how we can use public cryptography and blockchains to represent specifically not the identity of the person, but the identity of the biosample in a blockchain space, and more in the context of the permissions. So our platform, or Genobank's core mission, is to represent my consent. Is an NFT that represents my consent. So in this case, the researcher or the custodian of my biosample and biodata is a type of collector, right? So instead of collecting visual art kind of NFTs, they are collecting permissions. And the reason of the NFT instead of a credential or a certificate is that because the NFTs can be revoked by the owner. In this case, for us, the owner is the data subject,
Okay.
or the data or the biosample owner, and then they can revoke them using their wallet, right? So that in a nutshell is what we're enabling.
Sort of like how ENS does a controller delegate, but the owner can hold on to it.
Exactly, it's very similar. Yeah, exactly.
Cool. That's really neat.
Thank you.
Nice.
So just to finish a little bit, I mean, this is how literally our customers are genetic testing companies usually, or laboratories. So we incorporate our technology with a pre-NFT. So it's a QR code representing the serial number of the biosample. They scan it and then they pair it with their cryptographic wallet. And if they don't have one, we provide even a 12-word.
Wow,
ID.
that's great.
Yeah. So you can create your wallet on the fly, and using your 12 words, you'll be able to control the whole experience.
That's fantastic, and it's fully. I mean, obviously, it's going to matter how different people implement it, but as far as the technology is concerned, it's agnostic to personally identifying characteristics. That you don't have to put in your social security number, your phone number,
Nothing.
Your home address.
Yeah,
right.
Actually, if I put this is the first sentence that we put: we respect your privacy, and we don't know who you are.
Nice.
Yeah, because your 12 words will control the whole experience. Yeah.
That is doing it the right way.
That's pretty valuable with DNA, because that's always it's frankly a little disconcerting that a lot of people aren't as scared about it and will send their tissue sample into like 23andMe and stuff like that, because they're, who knows, they have a lot of interesting partners, right? So anyway, that's
and I imagine people feel more comfortable sharing that information if their identity is not hooked to it. So researchers are going to get the benefit as well, because they don't really want to know who you are. They just want the information.
Exactly. That's the point. Because usually the ones that like this information are the insurance companies, governments, and so on and so forth. So yes. So this is we'd like to enable the genomic medicine in an incognito kind of way, because as you were saying, our digital twins should not be entitled to or paired to our real world kind of credentials, because it's full of many misuses, right? For saying it in a very polite way. But
but
yes,
even the fact that it might not be misused is scary to people,
right.
because they don't know if it might be misused.
No, totally. And just because you were previously mentioning Latin America or South America as, as a mindset of openness for new technology, just because again also is because there's a very small amount of laws. Yeah, just one of our first customers is Somos. Somos is an ancestry company for Latin America. Specifically, it's like the 23andMe for Latinos and
Oh,
Latinas.
cool.
And
It's a
they
much more
were
interesting question.
exactly, so they are literally empowering the minority group, right? That feels that they can be targeted, and so yeah. So thank you for mentioning it earlier in the conversation.
That's some
sure, yeah.
interesting NFT utility for sure. It's like
Uh,
you think about that. What if you had? And I'm not advocating this, but theoretically, you could see community groups like that require. This is horrible. That would require some genetic background for entry. That's the
Ooh.
scary stuff.
That is
Yeah,
that
That
is
would happen.
like
But
Gattaca, right? Kind of thing.
right. Like you have to have 'cause you're making one type of NFT, right? Human DNA. You're not making multiple different types of NFTs depending on different heritage backgrounds.
Correct. And this is
Yeah.
again, the NFT represents the permission to use my biosample.
Mhm.
It's kind of a GDPR kind of token, right? So if you
Right.
hold my token, you still have access to it. You still have right to do whatever you told me you were going to do, but it's personal. I mean, it's literally to the wallet of the researcher, and the researcher must be a public entity. Yeah.
Okay. So transparency for the powerful and privacy for the many, which is a
Exactly.
really great principle.
Thank you very much. And just one additional thought, if just related to
I
what you
love
said,
that. That's
Joe.
great.
You were mentioning the specific DNA for specific groups, right?
Yeah.
But where it is very, very positive is when you have a mutation and you're looking for
Yeah.
researchers that
Right.
are looking specifically to that disease. So that's my
Oh, yeah.
personal story, and that's what we would like to empower research specifically.
No,
Yeah.
that's a really good
Well,
point.
and I think that's
Like,
actually a great
proof.
question. Tell us
Yeah.
about how you got into this, man.
So I was I was in Bitcoin already with the Bitcoin PL since 2014. I was one of those lucky guys to buy Bitcoin at $200 a Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I'm one of those unfortunate guys that spend most of them in gift cards and just playing around with the technology. But anyhow,
I
in
did the
2000,
same thing. You're not alone on
yeah,
that.
exactly. But in 2017, my son, I have three kids. My son, my youngest son, was diagnosed with a rare disease. So we didn't know that my wife and I were carriers of this allele, and he got the not lucky combination. And it's similar to hemophilia. I mean, so if he gets a cut, he bleeds a lot, but it's not hemophilia. It's called Glanzmann. But the thing is that is a Mendelian disease, which means it's deterministic. If you have the allele, you will show the pathology, right? The disease.
Right.
And yeah, it's rare. It's less than I believe 3,000 people or families in the United States. We don't have numbers of any other countries. But since that, I was trying to combine blockchain technology, privacy laws, and NFTs, because we can proudly say that since 2017, just after CryptoKitties, we were promoting the use of NFTs to represent ownership and control over human genetic information. So we can proudly say that, yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's great, because if the biggest barrier in the way of finding the answers to some of these challenges, right, is people not feeling comfortable with the technology, and researchers not being able to say for certain that they're looking at the right kind of data, or just sorting through all the logistics of permission to even look at that kind of data, is getting in the way of of actually helping people identify and treat these especially rare genetic diseases, and solving problems related to rare combinations of genetic defects that really harm people's lives, but don't get the kind of play that like big diseases like cancer do. Like solving those problems is going to bring a lot of a lot of human flourishing up for resolution, right? Where before we didn't
right
have
now,
a way
that
to
is a
deal
problem
with it.
with
Like if that's not
people
NFT utility, I don't know what the hell is.
Yeah, and there's definitely an issue with that where people that are like they have underserved diseases. Basically, they're not, like you said, they're not big enough to have an issue. My wife works on Friedreich's ataxia, which is one of those things that's too niche for like big companies to invest in. But their company's designed. This is all their company does. It's designed around going after these rare genetic diseases that others aren't working on. And the interesting thing there is that the researchers get to meet their they're so relatively few that it's a personal experience. It's for the researchers themselves, and you probably had experience with this too, Daniel.
Yes.
So yeah, I can relate to that too. Just
That's great. All right.
seconded.
Let's go to the questions. That's excellent. That's a great.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all of that with us and
Yeah.
telling
Oh,
the
no,
story.
please, thank you for having me. I mean, this is amazing.
Okay. First question, Jacob Wayne. Do you think there will be a time when NFTs will drop the reputation as pointless art and be known to the general public as an extremely useful tool in every industry, aka the future? Side note, I own and create some of that pointless art. Absolutely. I think this is, having Daniel on is even point to that. There are a number of other projects that are, really interesting that are out there that are, using this technology in a very valuable way. I know all the way back from Disney, we attempted to get a few things, and they're very business oriented, but very specific things about what do I want to say? Certificates of authenticity on collectibles, things like that should very well have already been in place. They didn't get it yet. It was too early. Again, I always point blame to crypto press, and it's almost impossible to avoid. But the number go up mentality of everything. That everything's about finances, everything's about banks. That's why you guys are either are horrible or great in the crypto world. Instead of thinking about it as a software, as a technology, and it kills me every time. And we're doing things with Lot that I think within DEN and with World Blockchain Roundtable, we're this is very experimental, but trying to demonstrate what can be done with the technology, very meaningful ways, and more productive ways than if we were to just not have governance and just run this show on its own and not have the extra stuff where community's involved. So
No.
what do you guys think?
I'd like to tack onto that and say
I agree with you, but I think because I've had a problem with this. Like you guys are the number go up thing, and I'm like, hey man, number go up so cool, pretty cool. I had a problem with NFTs because I was like at the forefront about NFTs. They're like, this is going to change the world. Countries where literally your family had a ranch or land for 20 generations, and then the government changes for a year, and then you've lost it. And when you go back to try to get that, like, I'm sorry, there's no records. Now
Right.
it belongs to the government. The new government has taken
big
it.
problem in Africa, actually.
I'm like, yeah, in
South
Africa, they're like, this is going to change the lives of so many people who don't have power. It's what blockchain was made for. To
Right. You
make
can't bribe a
something
warlord to
permanent
transfer
and
the
put it-
deed.
and put it in the
warlord can't bribe
hands of
anybody
the
to transfer the deed.
individual.
But that's less about. Oh, go ahead.
But then when everything hit with I called them entertainment NFTs, and I sound like an old man talking about that. I was like, dude, they've sullied what this is going to be. It's cheapened it. But I've stepped back, and I think that's just part of the evolution of a technology. I think when Ford, made the Model T, he wasn't like, hey, check this out. You guys are going to get so many chicks. It was not.
It should have been though.
It wasn't. That wasn't at least like, hey, look at all the things that we can do now, and you can, like, it was like the invention of the tractor. It's so useful that you can get this, but that's not what advertising did. That's not what brought the masses in. It's
Right.
always sensationalism, and that's I think what we're at right now is the sensationalism of NFTs, and it's bringing in bajillions of people. It's working. And I think that it's our job to kind of show them what else it could be.
Well, and to me,
That's true.
and to tack on your point, this is actually because that builds on what Joe was saying. I was going to build on that too, but I can keep going here. wait for the moment that people are, because I don't think it's pointless art, right?
No.
I think art is really important because it has the power to communicate. And right now, on on Twitter, if little known secret of Twitter pro tip, when they introduce a new feature, if you use it, they boost you more because they want people to see that feature out there. We have a unique opportunity as people who collect art to use the message of that community to tell people about the utility and to teach people about the power behind it, right? It's not so much that the reputation as pointless art is getting in the way. We're getting in the way of ourselves. If we use the reputation that we've been granted and the focus that we've been granted because of that pointless art, we can make that pointless art communicative. And we can say, these grandpa apes or whatever. Actually, grandpa apes are awesome. I love them. But our apes are now for this or for that, and we're going to say this NFT, will help us solve rare diseases, or this NFT will, the opportunity is there for art to be communicative for social change, and I think that's really, the answer to that question. The technology is already here. It's just we have to talk about it.
Can I refine 1.2? Because I agree. I didn't address that. I don't think it's pointless art. It's art. And in the beauty of the beholder, right? So, in the eyes, sorry. But the issue that I have with the number go up is not that it's powerful, because it is powerful. And that does attract adoption. It does attract interest. The issue I have is when the interest comes in and everything is, 99.9% of everything out there is about number go up. You don't get a lot about the tech, which is, I don't mind if it's even, 90%, 80%, whatever. But the issue is there's so little out there, and it's so hard to break through that what it means, the effect of it, the negative effect of it, and there are a lot of positive effects, right? But I have to concentrate on solving these negative effects, is that the ability to manipulate, because you think about it, of all of the high value NFT art that's out there, is it actually great art? No, it is. And some could say, and there is a definite argument that, okay, the punks are older. They were here first, or here very early, so they're valuable. The CryptoKitties may be worth a lot because they were here in the early days, irrespective of how quality the art is or whether I would want to actually own it, right? So the point is, it is so radically easy to manipulate that market, because all I would have to do is control enough of them, collude with others to set some sale prices that basically make it so, well, holy crap, if they're selling it for that, I'm not going to sell mine for anything less than this. So you get a floor price that's really high. How easy is that? How easily can you do that? You can do that radically easy. So, and
the silly thing is, it's a wasted opportunity, because if you say, if number go up, this cause gets funded, or if number go up, we make this change. That's a lot more powerful of an argument. And then you can look at it after it succeeds and go, number went up and we changed the world for the better.
And that's the thing, because
it's a fairly little extra step.
If the normies see it as some absurd thing, typically, right? They saw that with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin had a basis where, it's never been hacked. It actually works, right? You have to be very careful about it. The same reason that I was somewhat critical of the Central American states adopting Bitcoin, because of the issues that IMF has a lot of power. And if they want to come after him, they can do a lot. If this dude has anything in his closet that he doesn't want out, it's going to come out, because all of these nation states and central banks are going to go after him, and they're going to find fraud, or the fact that how easily would it be to insert someone in a Central American state and cause the fraud yourself, right? That stuff happens, and it's very dangerous for our world, Bitcoin, because they could mark a huge negative forever on that crypto just by doing those things behind the scenes that we have no control over.
But are we ready as a people for everyone to say Epstein didn't kill himself? Are people awake enough to see things for what they are? Or has it become so much of an education that even if things are exposed, you could get away with it with that argument?
Well, I think the thing we have to remember when we're talking about this is, a lot of us have already had our lives changed by the fact that we owned the first, the first community token when the United States created the current modern financial system. Those of us here in the States have already had the advantage of a community owned currency. And not a lot of other places have. And the United States has used that to our advantage at the exclusion of others, to the point where, it number go up in and of itself is powerful because it empowers people who have never been empowered before.
And Digital Foods makes a good point, Joe. First off, the thing you said, is this good art? That's not a real question because no one can answer it. But Digital Foods says the physical art world is already manipulated. So NFTs are really not going to be any different.
Yeah. Well, I think they will be more easily manipulated. In the traditional art world, you have to have access to untraceable money, which is going to be a nation state intel, which they do that. It's a known thing that they did that in the Cold War in order to downplay the art in the Soviet Union, that they tried to do that to create anxiety. And
I'm a Kuntz fan, so I don't think there's a such thing as
superiority, right? So it's like, oh, I don't mind that when you're fighting, personally in a fight against communism, no holds barred. That's how stuff works. But with this means, and mebe it's a good thing that we can now participate in that same activity. But the problem is, most of the people that you would want, the unbanked aren't participating in that manipulation and benefiting from the floor on some of those NFTs, right? So and you can't judge the art, but at the same time, it's you do have to look at the model and say, would even a badly painted piece of art be more reasonably considered to be of value than something that is a repeated figure with auto-generated hats on it, right? I mean, it's like,
the elements are still composed by an artist.
Yeah.
Jay, what kind of?
No, I know.
I don't know. I mean, but let's look at it as a punk. I mean, it's like whatever. I mean, I'm okay with it, but I'm just saying, the issue is in the security side and what can be done with perception at this stage in the game. That we are still early, and they could easily cause, and they have in the past. They've already done this with the Bitcoin fork and with the Ethereum fork and with so many other things. There have been setbacks that cause us years in either bear markets or in adoption.
Right.
So,
if you're a Pollock fan, there's not much difference between computer-generated art and a Jackson Pollock, right? Like, it's automatic. You are just having an intermediary.
I don't want to get into this, but so, my opinion is the art itself is like, why not just have a series? Let's put out a series of all black art pieces. And just have them limited. It is essentially the same thing. I have one of the 5,000. It doesn't really matter what the thing is because I don't give a crap what the thing is, right?
Well, maybe we should. Maybe we could try it as an experiment.
Well, a lot of people, treat art that way. I don't give anything. I don't care about the art.
Totally.
It's for tax. For tax evasion. It's to write something off.
So I just real fast. I gotta throw in why I love this art and I think it's great. Because it's an act of sort of propaganda of the deed to sort of deface social media with these things. Like it makes the whole ridiculousness of profile pictures and that social platform into a form of especially ridiculousness. And I love that. I love making the world silly. Like to me that is.
Yeah, I love making
it's not that the ape itself is great, but when you make it a profile picture and somebody famous is using it, that's fucking art, and that is fucking beautiful. I
wanted to ask, Jay, you're an NFT artist yourself. Have you noticed like any shift in sort of the how people are seeing NFTs? Like in the beginning, it was super crazy, and I've known you for maybe a year now or something. And even during that time, I feel like people have widely learned a little bit more about it. What do you see from your angle? Because as an artist yourself,
I think that it has shifted a little bit, and that people are now more aware of it. At least the type of NFTs that are being created. Like I just think of like Clone X now is working with like Nike. So you see big corporations, big brands actually getting into NFTs and now also creating metaverses. So I think there's a shift in that people like know these artists instead of it just being some random anonymous person online that made millions of dollars creating crypto punks or something like that.
Do you think that the bigger bands, the bigger brands and companies getting into it bring some legitimacy to where people might dismiss it otherwise? Like, oh, Nike's getting into it. Maybe there's something there. That
Yeah,
kind of thing?
and no at the same time, because people know the brands, people are familiar. So it's like, okay, this is a new digital form of brand loyalty or for them to explore. At the same time, people are annoyed. It's like, oh, this is just a cash grab from this company to get into NFTs because they're selling for so much money.
I can see that because there are those. They're not wrong.
I think it does. I think it's a huge. I think it's that last sector of people who are like, I don't know this shit. I don't care. Oh, Nike. Well, okay. So it piques that interest that brings those people. I think it's a definite section of people. But I know a lot of people that have now, because the big brands have come in, they were like, well, okay, what is this? It's like I can't escape it. There was people like, I don't know about this computer thing. I don't know about this internet thing. It's too confusing. I'm scared. Only place I saw computers growing up was on alien ships on movies. So it was literally people were scared and they had to get brought in slowly. So I think that with these big brands coming in, I've seen a definite shift. I've seen people that had no interest whatsoever actually had fear of it. I mean, they wouldn't say that, but they're like, that's stupid. So they come in. But one thing about the metaverse and NFTs, I think that the use cases of the utility of NFTs in the metaverse is going to show people so much more about how it's usable in the real world.
Can I add something in there that and this is maybe my gripe, and I hate to be negative. I'm always the guy who's saying, this is stupid. But we were on a call with a very large company that will remain unnamed, right? They were going to, and this has already happened, so you won't know which one it is. They were going to, and by the way, I did not do any trading based upon knowledge that they were going to announce what they have announced in the past, right? But they were basically going to roll out some, an NFT initiative. I won't say anything more than that, right? But it was interesting because they were doing it. But the point is they could have done something substantive. They could have done something that people in the real world, their customers, could have actually used that would have been using crypto. It would have been remarkable. And the guy who was leading the project was brought in specifically to do this project. He knew about us. He knew what we were capable of. He thought, in fact, some of the things that I just even offered as things they should consider to do were amazing. But guess what? His directive literally was, you've got in weeks, you need to launch this, which was effectively a copy of every other goddamn thing out there.
Right. And were you
nothing to be added to the world. It was just stupid. And nothing against this guy, because he literally was by their board, all the way down from the top. CEO wants X, Y, Z, because that's what everybody else is doing. Yes, it's not going to add anything for our customers. And guess what happened? It came out, it was announced. It fell flat. I mean, it was there, but has it changed anything for their customer interaction? Has it helped improve? Right. Well, and here's the main thing. Has it improved their bottom line? Has it improved their stock price? No. Right? They lost a gigantic opportunity because there's so much focus on, we have to do this. It's like a boys band in the freaking 80s or 90s. Everybody's trying to do the same damn thing. It's stupid.
And it works. It works and you make money until it doesn't work.
Do you guys remember when Steve Jobs talked about the reason they put the extra effort into the design of products, why you paint the back of the fence, right? Like, people are discerning. They know when they're being sold bullshit. Yeah. That is, I mean, Jack White talked about it too in how his live shows run. Like, he doesn't tell the same jokes between songs because the audience can fucking tell. Like, people are smarter than anyone gives them credit for. And to me, this is like, sometimes I feel like I'm alone in a soundproof booth screaming, "People aren't stupid." And the people who think that people are easy to manipulate are the ones who are themselves manipulated. But
that you say that after you just made like a quote that Willy Wonka wishes he had said. I like to make the world silly. Yeah, dude, you have more optimism than most people this period.
Well, I mean, and I do think that we can have varying degrees of optimism, but I also think the difference between the least optimistic and the most optimistic of us is very narrow.
All right, next question. That was long. That was good. I think it was good. Hopefully I wasn't too negative. All right. Y'all weird. Probably my favorite denizen, or at least one of them. Will NFT technology be an industry standard in how governments hold elections and implement identification protocols? If so, in what time frame? What can we expect? What do we do to educate normies about its use case in order to narrow that time frame? First thoughts, anybody?
This is going to be a tough one.
First thought for me, just talking about normies, who I agree with Greg, people are not stupid. I think there's a massive amount of untapped brain power out there just because people are biased against using those particular brains, which is stupid.
Well,
but getting rid of the word NFT, huge step. A little bit on the last question that relates here is I think it's just going to be the internet, and they're just going to be called tokens. Like the NFT thing is useful right now because it differentiates this token from other tokens. But normal people, I don't think, are ever going to care about the nuance between different types of digital tokens and things like that, and max supply versus like the utility of it. With elections and with other things too. Like I think the next PlayStation will probably have NFT-based DRM on it, which I shouldn't even put into the world because I don't want that. But you know what I mean? It's because that's a problem they've always chased. You know what I mean? They've always had that problem because they've always chased having that problem. But
NFTs are DRM like that.
Yeah, right. It's the right way to do it. If you want to do it, sure.
Yeah.
But they're going to do it the wrong way. But yeah, it's not elections, but it's proving not identity, but maybe ownership of a Blu-ray or of a, like if I would love to not get my internet canceled by downloading a film that I've already purchased, for example. You know what I mean? That would be a utility. That would be great.
It'd be proof that you paid for it in the past, which is
I've had
honorable way to handle DRM. It's like, if you're going to do DRM, at least let me actually own the damn thing.
Yeah.
Right. Or like, let me sign my keys to play this on my friend's device. Like if I'm halfway across the country and I don't want to tote my entire
how many people
DVD
watching,
collection,
Greg?
but I want to watch
it. Are you showing
it
this to an audience?
Right? No, actually you could, but that's the thing. Like those rights used to be very difficult to negotiate. I actually bought a, so have you guys heard Punk Holder yet? You got to hear this song. Ground Up 2 on Twitter is the guy to look up.
Look it up.
He made this remix of somebody in a Twitter space saying, despite the fact that everyone was like, "Hey, raise your hand, dude. We're talking about NFTs. Raise your hand. It's not your turn to talk." And he goes, "No, I'm a punk holder. You got to listen to me. I need to speak right now." And he just continued. Somebody recorded this. Well, I mean, they all get recorded, right? And somebody remixed it. Ground Up 2 did. And I immediately was like messaging him saying, "Hey, I want to get a non-exclusive, unlimited license to do derivative works off this tune because I love this and I wanted to use it in a video or something." Right? Like it had a cool sound to it. Not to make fun of whoever got nailed for being a douche, but like he did a great remix. So he put it on Mintable. Said this is an unlimited license to make derivative works off my song, and I purchased it off of that. And that stuff used to take lawyers and contracts and craziness. That is going to be a huge thing. Like the velocity with which we can do commercial implementations.
Anywhere we can get rid of lawyers, right, Greg? I'm all for anywhere we can.
Lawyers and bean counters, man. Kill them.
Lawyers and bean counters, the evil of the world. Can I bring in also, this is a prime example of my last point, right? That sure. And by the way, I don't think they would be NFTs as most people understand NFTs, that my identity wouldn't be transferable. It would be more like what Daniel has with Genobank, where I can prove my identity, I can't transfer it to Greg and let him pretend like he's me, right? And that's all doable, and it all works. And we have lots of systems that are starting to do some of the things like that. But because of the communications and because of the culture, how realistic do you guys think it would be to walk into any state or county in the country and try to sell this technology to someone who needs this technology in a voting system? It makes it more difficult, I will tell you, okay? So you have to totally dissociate from that. You cannot use the words NFTs, even though it might make it easier for people to understand, because of what I would consider some of these things that are, I don't know. It's just an association that
you're selling them public-private key cryptography systems.
Yeah. So you end up having to go the other way, which ends up being more technical, and it just makes everything more difficult. That's
states and government entities also resist standardization. They don't want to be the state next door. They actually have kind of an emotional attachment to that. That also, like Joe, you and I are in the same boat because we both worked in places where we're selling to state entities. Yeah. And Daniel, you may find yourself in that place in some point in the near future where government researchers want to use your technology, and they're a difficult group to work with. Everardo has the same problem with integrating some of his work around prescriptions.
Yeah, and one of the big keys is any accepted expert has to be at least from somewhere nowhere near me. It has to be somebody from New York. Okay, I'll listen to that. If it's somebody from the next city over, no, they can't be an expert. They're too close to me. That's how it works. I don't know why. It's funny.
Totally. No. So two main things that you already mentioned. So one of the characteristics of our NFTs is a delegation token. The ownership will never be moved. So I believe it's an important difference between, let's say, a visual art NFT that transmits ownership. These our token, which we also have the honor to be co-authored with William Entriken. Some of you might know him. Mm-hmm. William Entriken is the lead author of the ERC 721 smart contract.
Okay.
He's not, I believe he's not as famous as he should be, I would say. But anyhow, he helped us to design, based again on the spirit of, or the will of the patients, that they only want to share but not to forfeit ownership, right?
Right.
And this is exactly this really changes, at least in the legal language, what companies are doing with our biosamples, because today Web2 kind of genetic testing companies will make you sign in some way, maybe it's a web agreement or whatever, but they do claim legal rights over your data, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a royalty-free, worldwide, perpetual kind of legal right.
Right, that transfers to any successors in interest.
Exactly.
Right.
So I believe what you all were saying is, for us NFTs, is how can I publicly prove ownership or authenticity or provenance, right? Without the other implications, right? Implicating my real identity and so on and so forth. So the last part is, yes, we are looking into a world where we are trying to educate, we would say, researchers that, and we're saying, hey, you will have to have a wallet where you can show to the regulator, hopefully the privacy data regulator, data privacy regulator, that all the data sets that you have their corresponding permission while you are a custodian of this very sensitive data.
Right.
And this should protect you, and this should lower the cost for you to comply with data privacy regulations. So that's our promise to researchers that are willing to use our system. So transparency will protect you, because you don't have a secondary agenda with the data sets. You don't want to sell them. You don't want to do mischievous things with them. You just really want to do research, and if that is the case, transparency will protect you all the way.
Right. Well, and I think that's a really good point. The way that you speak to governments ultimately is to speak to the bottom line. That's what they mostly care about. Or at least that will override the cultural concerns. So if you wanted to implement something like voting, the way that you sell it is by walking in there and showing them how a secure election, which they already run, you'd have to tell them that can be a lot cheaper. Once you get it into their talented hands, they'll be able to use this to make their budgets go further. You have to fluff their egos a bit, but that's that's all sales. So
totally. I mean, you give a pre-NFT to all the citizens, they scan the code, and then they just deposit the NFT to the wallet of the candidate they want. Mm-hmm. It's just one, but obviously the real implication here is the citizen identity, how you pair a wallet to a real citizen identity. So that's a whole different challenge.
It also opens up new ways to monetize, because that's data that is very valuable, and yet it's very poorly monetized right now. It's effectively stolen.
It's monetized in an
not traced.
Way.
Yeah. So, but it's the actual consideration of who actually owns the data isn't included in that. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I'm saying, because if you have that transparency, you can open it up more to people who would not normally. Well, I'm not going to do that with my data, but if I know that it's transparent, that I have control over it, that I can actually even see how many times it's been accessed, and that I might have some monetization, which could even just be that my CT scans are cheaper or something.
Right. Well, a meaningful right to exit too matters to people. Like if it starts getting used in a way that they didn't anticipate, they don't like, being able to go, I'm sure that will be the same for researchers, right? The part of the regulation of researchers and part of the regulation of voting systems will have to be that individuals have access to a DApp where they can go and revoke and meaningfully revoke the rights for anybody to continue using the thing. And that's got to be a huge part of it. And the right to exit is how you will, if you can say, if you don't like it, you can leave, and at no cost to you anytime you want. That is a powerful thing to say to people to get them to try something new. So.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. You go next question?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Okay, question. Do you think things like sports, this is Joe Below, sports and music tickets become NFTs? And if so, does this become valuable if everyone is making everything an NFT? Thoughts on that?
Yes. And I mean, the value of your ticket has extreme value. I mean, you could buy it for $25 and it's worth $500 the closer the concert gets, the closer to the game it gets. And then all of a sudden it's worthless. Literally, as soon as it starts, it's worthless. Except for like sentimental value, to have this ticket stub or something. So I think NFTs, you can't say, hey, is this paper gonna just be worthless because everyone's printing stuff on paper? It's the same thing. That's the utility.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that way, right?
But I think this person is looking at it as the utility versus the number go up thing. This is the perfect example of it. Real utility, you use it, and that's what it's for.
What if it was augmented in a way too? Like, what if you go to a game, and afterwards, because you hold that NFT, you can always access a live stream of that game, like for perpetuity. Or you go to a movie and you pay for the movie ticket. What if after you go to the movie, you come home and you can watch it on streaming whenever you want because you already paid for it?
Or even one step further, let's go into metaverse with this. Like, right. Jay, you're big into metaverse right now. A movie theater in metaverse, right? Maybe you can be in the room with everybody else while the film's playing, but unless you hold that NFT, you don't actually get the audio video stream, on the on the thing.
DRM.
And it's DRM, dude. It's but you buy a ticket is what it is, and then that ticket becomes a ticket stub, a memento. Then maybe if you have like a certain number out of the set of a series, you get into the VIP show blowout at the end of the year,
right?
Or something.
Well, and then you go to the con later, and you get in the VIP room with all the super fans, right? Because you were there.
Can I offer up something that's a modeled utility that's a little bit more unique that you can't you could do it, but it'd be much harder to do it in the traditional world. But with NFT, right? So let's just assume you have a scalable platform. There are a lot that aren't. Let's just assume that it's not $200 to print a ticket. Okay, let's just pretend like that, right? So if you have NFTs, you can solve a lot of the issues. We put on a conference, Seattle. In fact, it was the group that became World Blockchain Roundtable. That was originally a Seattle meetup group that grew to like 3,000 something, 4,000 people. It was the largest blockchain meetup group in the country when we first started it, because it was generic. Anybody could come. It wasn't about only Bitcoin or only Ethereum, things like that. So we put on a conference, and I put on shows before when I was in a band way back, but nothing at this scale, nothing where we would have sponsors and where we had to manage all that. And the team was amazing that put it together, right? But it was a massive loss. I mean, we didn't make money on it, which wasn't the point. It wasn't for a for-profit thing, but at the same time, I recognized it very quickly as this could be improved, right? And we had people who knew what they were doing this. It wasn't like we had people who'd never done this before. And I went through and modeled everything, and it's so abstract to that world that we never got to implement it. But effectively, and this is something you can do, you can say, look, the biggest issue with putting on an event is getting the facilities, getting everything physical in order, because it's very expensive. You have to know in advance when and where and all of these details, which is a huge risk to anyone because you could get bad weather. You could get in fact, the biggest thing with the crypto world is we could be in a bear market by the time this happens, and then we're screwed because nobody's going to come, right? That's what happens. And so what we modeled, and we haven't built this out yet, is effectively that people can buy NFTs up front. So I can buy sponsorship NFTs, which are really cheap at first, which gives me a spot. And guess what? If I can't actually, because you don't tell me exactly when the event happens or even what venue it is yet, but I'm going to support it, and I'm going to put some money in on sponsorship. Those sponsorships open up numbers of seats. So now people can buy tickets very cheaply for the first round with the same consideration that I'm going to buy this in advance because I know that the ticket price goes up and up and up until the thing gets announced and set in stone. And at that point, I can now sell my ticket for at least more than the $20 I'm paying for it, right? That's when you can get because the way that conferences work right now, they start at $1,400 or $1,000, and by the time the event happens, everybody knows that not enough people have bought the tickets, and therefore I can pretty much give them for free, because they're going to give them away because they need people in there because the sponsors want eyeballs. And it's backwards right now, and you can totally flip the scarcity on it. And there's a bunch of really cool stuff you can then do as well with holding an NFT because I was a speaker, and that we can prove that I attracted 1,500 people to my talk, which means I get a cut of the purse, right? And that's the way to do stuff, and it's all with NFTs because it's all transparent, and that there will be a market there, and the risk is really low early where it matters, so people actually get in, and once you have. It makes it easier to go then sell the higher level sponsorships because you can say, look, we have guaranteed 1,000 people coming already, right? Anyway.
That actually, Joe, if I may add to that point, that's exactly what we want to achieve in the genomics world. Meaning, thank God, or nature or the universe, depending on your beliefs, 93% of humans have a healthy genome. Right, so it's sort of or at least any pathology in your body should not be directly attached to something related to your genome, right? So nature is very has high quality, if I may, right? But in general, the other 7%, if you look at this from the cluster or data cluster kind of context, you want the outliers, right? And as you want the successful speakers in an event, you want those individuals that will lead you to the best answers in the clinical space. And this is precisely where we call our project equitable tracing for human biosamples. And by equitable tracing is exactly what you described, is we want to discover which individuals from the human data cluster is driving the discovery, right?
That's
One
powerful.
few individuals will lead you to the correct answer in the clinical trial, and you should recompensate them or compensate them accordingly.
Right.
And today there's no way to trace that back.
Right, because they're a community value contributor of high degree. They should essentially, like if we were doing the same thing today, somebody who helped someone discover a key drug ought to have a share grant from the company that sells it. And
Minimum. Yeah.
It's also doubly powerful because it'll encourage people who have this situation to feel hopeful. In a way that will bring them to the table and make them more active contributors in helping solve their own problems. Because if we can fix this, then I can help everybody else who's like me. But I'm also going to be able to get rewarded for the success of this in a way that encourages my active participation as opposed to just passive.
All weird is saying about that self-custody is very difficult and it's hard for people to do. I think that this is one of the easiest things. Can you imagine? And I've been to a ton of concerts, and at least every other one, there's somebody arguing, "What? These are fake tickets? I just bought it from that guy." And the cops are, what guy they're trying to chase the dude down. It's a huge mess. Can you imagine buying your tickets from a scalper at a show and knowing that they're 100% legit and just doing it on your phone to phone?
Yeah.
And I think it would be simple for that. I mean, there's an app for everything. It would just have to be a multi-wallet app. So whatever chain the NFT's on, it would just automatically read it and show it.
Here's the thing, guys. Those things are not going to be on Ethereum. I don't care what anybody thinks. Maybe in 10 years, right?
Yeah,
that use case is not going to happen
down the road.
Well, it's going to be.
It could be different. It could be different chains, and the user doesn't have to know it's a wallet.
Right.
It just
this whole thing is going to be
right
only widely adopted when nobody can tell which chain it's on. Nobody cares if they're using POP3 or whatever the fuck your mail.
And at the point when whoever is facilitating it and taking their cut is going to be paying whatever the fees are on the back end. That's the use case for Dragonchain, right? That they would have their own damn chain. They don't need to use some other chain, and yet they have all the security and they have the low fees. So that's how that stuff works. And you're right. It'll just be an app, and these people will not know, nor will they care. They will just have the knowledge that this is real. I don't have to. I can buy this.
If we make them have to care, we're not doing it right. It's like you shouldn't have to tell people that HTTPS needs to be in the address bar.
The Ticketmaster app could be a multi-wallet.
Yeah.
No one would know that. Mm-hmm. It's just you have the app, you buy your ticket, it's in the app. If you buy it from a scalper, you could scan it, you could transfer it. If you want to sell it to your friend, it's just app to app, and no one would know that's why wallet.
That's why philosophy matters, by the way, too, because what are the chances Ticketmaster will do that in the next 5 years? It'd be awesome if they did, but
Well, I mean, but the person who competes with them that does that.
Oh, I know. That's the opportunity,
right?
That is the opportunity, right?
Greg, you used an example a second ago about POP3. Like, who cares what email protocol I'm using? Like, that should be the only time that somebody has to think about what network they're on. It's like, oh, okay, enter your email, credentials. Is it a POP3? Is it IMAP? Like, that's the only time I think about it.
Right. And if you have to put that in,
so you might
screwed
say,
up on
okay,
the UI
put in your
front
account
and the back end front.
Is it Solana? Is it Ethereum? That's like back end settings, and that's
right.
it.
And the reason that matters now is because we're not there yet, right? Like, we all have to care about that right now. We can't skip that step. We can't elide it. We can't say we don't care, because that's how it needs to be. We have to be paying attention to these details like never before. Because if we do it wrong, or we do shortcut it, and if we do it unethically, we're doing Web 2 again. Like, what Web 2 fucked up was they came in with all hope as the plan, and they let people make these decisions that ended up corrupting the whole damn thing. And we're having to do it over right now. Web 3 is a do-over. It's not some new thing. It's a do-over.
Well, the other thing,
I think all of blockchain started with a hope. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Not looking at whether they actually could with the models that they.
Well, we need it. So, hope will drive us to do, but it has and focus
I agree.
and detail attention and caring about everything from how this is impacted by contracts to how this is impacted by culture.
Yeah. And that's why you need the cheerleaders, but you definitely need the people like me who will say, wait a minute, please do this right. Please don't just put this out because it sounds cool and the press is going to cover it, right?
Critical voices matter because they make us think about those details.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay.
No, don't
one last
apologize
question.
for being a good critic.
One last question, I think, is a pretty decent one. Decent crypto. Speaking of what to look for in a good NFT project. And I think if I'll answer real quick and then we can go through because we want to close out pretty quick here. But I would say if it's the utility, look at the utility itself. Look at if the utility matches with the modeling that they're putting together. That's a huge point. If it's about speculation and art, I would say follow the communities. Look where the communities are going and figuring out where the masses of people are going to be purchasing or minting things and things like that.
Right. Talk to someone in the community. Talk to multiple people in the community. That's really the key. Like you can go out and get anybody to talk about something that's in their bag, right? Like even if it's just like somebody who is in it for the genuine right reasons, will still talk about it with you because they're in it for the genuine right reasons. You'll be able to very quickly tell if it's just about scamming the number up only, and if it's about making the number move up, but for a reason. Because you want people to see it and you want to spread this community around and you want to create something of value, you'll be able to tell. I mean, it will reveal itself quickly.
Yeah,
totally. I mean, if I may add, I mean, obviously, before we have the peer review scientific papers, right, which we have also written, I mean, through these NFTs and privacy laws. But now it's easier. I mean, you can literally peer review a project. And these Ask Me Anything kind of forums are really, really useful. And please meet with the leaders, have them have a reputation stake in their projects. I believe that's an essence. Like for us, I mean, we've been in 2017, and maybe this is not a good thing or a bad thing. We are still learning about it, but we have not issued our native token. I believe talks about the project, whether the timing of the or when you issue a token. I mean, we have always been very careful not to fund ourselves by issuing the token and then promising things that obviously is a security right there, right?
Right.
It's an investment.
Oh, and everybody listening to this right now, that is a response that if you hear that, you got yourself a project that's legit.
Exactly. So we've been looking into the traditional investment, which obviously is hard. It's 100 times harder, but it's more legit. We are here to improve the technology. We want, as you were saying, the NFTs to be really in the background. We don't want them to say, hey, just because I am. No, it's because there's cryptography that works to prove things and gives you certainty, right? That's the ultimate goal. And for that, we don't need to issue a token. So that's literally another thing that I believe we've been saying, all the colleagues out there working in life sciences. So the minute you ask somebody to say, hey, put your data, your healthcare record here, and I'm going to give you my native coins, and the researchers will have to buy my coin in order to query your data, that's a red flag for me.
Yeah,
like saying,
no
that's
kidding.
not going to happen in 10 years. Because these companies are really heavily regulated, and the last thing they want to do is buy your native or shitcoin, sorry my French,
right? No,
right? To query somebody else's data. They really just want to comply with data regulations. That's the real interest, and for that you don't need a native token. So again,
that's just gatekeeping with a token. That's bullshit.
Exactly. For me, yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's why Rivet did not issue a token, right? Like we didn't want people to, I mean, if we were going to issue a token at all, it would literally be, we're going to allow you to mint an infinite number of these by, by changing your account balance for requests that you already bought in cash into tokens, and there's no limit on them. Like it wouldn't be a freaking, liquidity trap for people, which is just bullshit.
that is
you can do scoring like that too for governance without having a token, right? You can have, literally actions in the past cause that's a lot of what we're doing with Den, where actions in the past have a behavior mapping that gets you weight or influence in a vote. So
I agree with what Joe said about NFTs. It really depends on the NFT project. If it's a entertainment NFT, I think the community is huge, but I think in both cases you have to look at the hype or the marketing of it. If it's more of a utility, then it's the team, it's the transparency. But also, if they build it and no one knows about it, it's not gonna go anywhere. So you have to. That is something you've always got to look at. Is how are they going to get the word out there, and who's going to talk about it? Is it going to be like serious people, or is it going to be just, kind of the scammy side? Which, if you're talking just hype, make some money, flipping NFTs, it's not that big a deal. It's more, and it's hard to do that because so much of I have imposters all the time, but I had an imposter on Instagram 2 weeks ago that my ex-girlfriend's like, hey, I got another one of those guys messaging me, and I started talking to him. I thought it was you. And then he's like, have you invested in this? So I go, look. And he has 3 times my followers. That stung. I'll tell you right now, that stung. I was like, are you serious? I mean, and now I'm like, reporting him to Instagram. But I know Instagram's going to be like, wait, this is the fake one? What? No,
If they ban you, it would be fun.
But it shows how easy it is.
Just hire him.
You can get 100,000, 200,000 Instagram, and if not Instagram, but like Telegram users, you can pay a little bit extra and have them engage every now and then. You can buy Twitter followers. So a lot of that cursory, investigation where you look at the community. You have to look for certain signs. I mean, if someone has 150,000 followers on Twitter, but their posts get 7 likes,
7 likes,
and 1 retweet, that's if they have 15,000 or 20,000 people in their Telegram, but someone says something once an hour, once every 2 hours,
they're not buying the gold plan.
is flagrant. It's so
you have to watch that because. Because when it comes to number go up, it's all surface. So there's people in that are looking to do that are not going to be of the highest caliber when it comes to the morals.
Yeah,
right.
It's rough.
Yeah, I mean that's really the bottom line about vetting people, right? You got to get a sense of a person. You can't know whether or not somebody's saying something genuine or just saying the right words if you don't get a feel for who they are. And that's that's the cool thing about the social aspect of even the art projects that people don't always think are all that great is they're an incentive to talk. And if you have an incentive to talk, then you're going to get to know the people behind it. And oftentimes that will reveal something quite shallow, and you'll want to walk away from that. But surprisingly, more often, it's not surprising to me, but surprising to a lot of people, more often than not, you find people as people. They're genuinely there. They're genuinely into it for a reason that they care about. You might think they're misguided. You might not, but they're people, and that's sort of it's neat because it's humanizing the internet a bit in a way that doesn't necessarily require everybody to dox themselves. So,
and it is hard in social media too. That running a project, there's so many trolls, there's so much drama, there's so much negativity that a lot of people, just shut themselves off from things where there's an opportunity to at least explain what you're legitimately trying to do. So, if you reach out to people, that is one way. It's harder because there is so much negativity. But I remember early days that I would get people surprised that I was answering them because, they would start with, a troll and say, well, what do you mean? We're not doing that. We're doing this. And they would still remain negative for a few messages and then all of a sudden kind of flip. And it was a weird thing that I realized, okay, if you handle everything in a way that's like literally turn your the other cheek,
Right, trolls are just really
accept
bad at
upon
making
the
friends.
trolling and
It's not that
whatever.
they're
It's
not
actually it's a magical thing because people then just open up. So it's kind of strange, but I don't know. People are very weird. Anyway, so
People are weird.
Yeah, y'all
they
weird.
are. It's unbelievable sometimes.
It's funny you
Okay.
brought
God
that up,
for
man.
weird,
It's
man.
my ex-girlfriend that sent me the thing for the Instagram guy. I had met her because she sent me a message, like an unsolicited message, just saying something, and I was like, "Oh, hey, bot, what's up?" And then because I looked at her hometown, it's this little town like 25 miles away, but it's not like a real town. There's like 80 people in the. I mean, it's like
Right,
so it's something a bot would pick up.
right?
You know, like hot girls in your area. There's 5,000 in this town that has 100 people. So I was like, "Hey, bot," and I just like messing with her, and I was like, "Yeah, right. You're that cute, and you're from Oglesby, sure." That's and you're messaging me just out of the blue. Go ahead. What do you want? What do you want my money for? She's like, "You think I'm cute?" I was like, "What?"
Funny.
Yeah.
Man, all right. So let's talk about. Thanks everybody for coming on. What can you all? Let's go down the line. Dave, what's going on this week? What should people know about?
Yeah. So this afternoon, 3 Eastern, we're going to have a governance call to go over some updates on DIN. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes over there on that. But basically, we've got. I saw a couple of demos on our site-wide governance. We've got some conversation going on about DAOs, and we have our app updates that are out this week. So I would say just swing by the DIN governance layer on DIN, and you'll see a post about the governance call today. We'll be live at 3 o'clock. So swing by and check that out.
Okay, and let's go with Greg. What is going on over here?
Well, two things to report. I've had some great conversations about Mega Texas over the course of the past couple of weeks. People seem to dig the idea that that you might create a DAO that can fund local action at a much broader scale. Essentially, who's gonna win the school board race if you're bringing blockchain level pooled funds to the local campaign, right? Like that is a huge advantage. So we're kind of going to start small and expand from there. But if anybody wants to talk about Mega Texas, if they like the idea of bringing the power of crowdfunding to local political action in favor of liberty, you're going to love Mega Texas. So check that out, and then and just hit me up on social. You can search megatexas.eth. You'll find me.
I will tell you, I will weigh in if you guys will support an anti-red light camera, especially because I think most of them all come out of Houston. I think the companies that push that and lobby the locals here
It's illegal
are in Texas.
Well, you would have to be a DAO if you
and they
wanted
make
to
them in
vote on
Texas.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
We had
they're
an
still
issue
up.
with those. This is way off
but they're
topic. But we
illegal.
had an issue with those in Virginia, where like that kind of thing, the company that made it was they got a cut of traffic.
Totally,
tickets.
that's how it
And
works.
so they make it.
Yep.
They made the incentive like it was very overly sensitive. Like if you
Right.
if you barely like miss the red light, and if you know your vehicle, and you're like, I won't get into that.
Like,
But it's
my
like,
only
you know
two
what I mean?
exits out of my
You're
neighborhood,
right, you're right.
only two ways to get out in the real world
Yeah.
follows through two of these lights that are on extremely short lights, extremely sensitive. It's stupid. I literally am going to have to get a mask, a cape, and a big green freaking powerful laser if this isn't taken care of otherwise, because it's ridiculous.
Frankly, anybody with Matter is getting airdropped the governance token when we finally get there. So
Yes. And hey, man, when you're ready for a place to collaborate and monetize that, let's get a Mega Taxes layer. And
hell yes.
We've got the governance tools for you, all of that, and we've got NFTs to prove ownership. So,
Yep.
Yes.
And
do
with
it.
Mega
with-
Texas, bringing the freedom of Texas. Everybody,
we're turning
Everybody
everything
else.
into United
Can't
Counties
move
of
here?
Mega
We'll go to
Texas.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. You could do some marketing with that, Sean. That's amazing. All right.
Yep.
All
And
right.
then the last thing that I will say is Rivet is going to be at ETH Denver. So if you're going to be there, come say hi. You'll see my smiling face somewhere, along with Austin, Sam, and Philip, who's our newest team member. And he's going to be joining us from the Portland area.
When is that?
And then ETH Denver. It's coming up on February 18th. We'll be there from the 18th to the 21st.
I'll miss this one then.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
And then last but not least, if you thought of something to go build it. Just get started and try something today.
Excellent. Daniel, what should we watch for?
Thank you. So we're still working very hard to integrate with laboratories right now. We are in the space of so our products are completely. So if you know a clinical laboratory or a genetic testing company that would love to test wallets or bio wallets, as we call them, and bio NFTs, please reach us through our webpage, or my Twitter account is DUREBB, or you can find me in LinkedIn. I mean, I'm very publicly available. So thank you very much for having us. Thank you for these spaces about NFTs that are have a utility, and still very promising. Never ever lose faith on this technology. I've been in the space for more than 20 years now, cybersecurity expert. This is something different and will drive our humanity to a better digital world.
Yes.
Thanks for
absolutely.
coming on, man. We're glad to have your voice in this conversation.
Very fitting.
awesome.
Sean, what is going on this week?
Well, check me out on Sean on YouTube. I had a nice fireside chat show with Greg this week.
That's right.
For 2.5 hours. It was so
It was
long.
epic. It was our own little Rogan episode.
It was pretty cool. Catch me on Crypto Rewind on Rice TVX tomorrow, every Friday at 7 Eastern, 6 Central. Like Queen Lisa and me, the new normal on Tuesdays at 5 Eastern, 4 Central. And I'm gonna have more shows. I'm on this show. I'm on Crypto Rewind. I'm supposed to go on BitBoy's channel, and I always put it off. So I haven't done a lot on my own channel just for shows, But it was fun hanging out with Greg. So I'll probably try to get one a week out starting soon.
Cool. Anytime you want to hang out again, we can talk about the same stuff or different stuff.
I actually was thinking about getting you on Crypto Rewind too. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Fridays. Yeah, we go over the news of the week, just current
yeah.
current events and news and stuff. Yeah.
Hell yeah, I'm always down for that.
Right
It's actually how I first got started here, back in the early days with the old, or the, I guess you guys still do it, the original Dragonchain podcast.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
That John Oliver took our idea last week. The news. Yeah.
Okay. Jay, what is going on? What's going on soon that everybody should be paying attention to?
Yeah, within the next month, I'll be releasing a brand new NFT metaverse experience, part of South by Southwest. So I can't say much yet, but there's a lot of stuff happening, and you can see it in Decentraland at my spot at 7029 next to Binance and MakerDAO right there in Crypto Silicon Valley. I'll probably have something as well in that Den Social spot.
Nice. Yeah,
That's
perfect. Let us know. Make sure we know, because that's awesome.
Yeah, we're not using our state right now, and I actually have another property too that I'm not using. So if you want to use all of my stuff right now, by all means, we've got some what do you call it? Some window space.
Yeah, I've got a few thousand NFTs to show off.
Nice. That's right. That's great.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being on. It was amazing. Thanks for everybody with the questions and topics. Make sure you join the WBRT Lair and Den to ask questions on next week's show, which the theme is interoperability. Should be really good a show. I think Greg voted on that one, so I saw that. Make sure you share this episode as well. The more it gets out, the more views, the more all of the contributors will get in lot to compete with past episodes. And make sure you like, subscribe, share it. Go check out the Dragonchain.store to get the WBRT merch. I think there's a link on it's alphabetical, so it'll be at the bottom on the left. And that's it. So thanks everybody for joining.
Facings made one comment that I have to.
Okay.
He said, "I love Wax." We talked about NFTs and no one brought up Wax. Wax is amazing for creating NFTs for normies, no coiners. My 9-year-old nephew asked me how he can make money flipping NFTs. I was like, get started on Wax. Super simple.
There you go.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I'll check it out.
Okay. Yeah, I've not used enough of the different platforms. I
Yeah,
have
it's
to
simple.
be honest.
I didn't like that they wanted me to attach my Google account to it, but other than that, it's super easy and cheap. And like, I have got some bad coin NFTs and a couple of like, random stuff that I've made on there. So
Oh, yeah.
William
Old school
Shatner,
games on
William
there.
Pro
Shatner
tip too.
released on there, so I had to, buy
That's
those.
cool.
Pro tip too, you can go and search publicly available SMS addresses, and you can get a phone number for anywhere. So you can sign up for a Google account without doxing your phone number.
That is good info.
So just try a bunch of different ones and eventually work, and you can have a Google account without telling them how to call you.
Yeah, that's good. You need to post some of those tips on like the privacy layer.
Yeah,
or
go to the
something.
treasure trove, man.
Yeah, that would be a good info. All right, okay. Thanks everybody. See you next week.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best.
Adaptable, raw capital, label radical yet rational. A tactical approach is palpable if this animal is fallible, but that conclusion is laughable. So with for all detachable from the mandible, you see it now.